In 1666, the Swedish royal court paid a fortune for a 680-page medieval manuscript because they believed it was literally written by Satan. That's the story we've inherited. A 13th century monk named Hermann made a deal with darkness, and in a single night of demonic possession, he scratched out the Codex Gigas, the world's largest medieval book. The legend is so seductive that even serious scholars repeat it. But here's what actually happened. A man under impossible pressure made a calculation that looked insane to outsiders, and that choice created a myth that's lasted 8 centuries. Let's start with what everyone believes. Around 1230, in a monastery in Bohemia, a Benedictine scribe named Hermann faced a choice. His monastery was in financial ruin. The abbot decided to commission a massive biblical manuscript, so enormous it would take one man his entire remaining life to complete. They're asking Hermann to stake the next 30 years on this one project. No insurance, no backup plan. The manuscript itself is staggering by the numbers. Codex Gigas measures about 20 by 16 inches. It weighs 75 pounds. It contains 310 vellum pages. That's the skin of roughly 160 calves, scraped, treated, and sewn together. The text includes the entire Latin Bible, plus commentary, medical recipes, and historical chronicles. One man, 30 years of daylight copying by hand. And then there's the image. On page 290, a full-page illustration of a demonic figure, horned, red, teeth bared, claws spread. It's striking, it's disturbing. Medieval people saw it and thought, no human spent 30 years on this without supernatural help. The legend crystallized. The Devil's Bible, written in one night by a monk possessed. It's the kind of story that spreads because it explains something that feels inexplicable. How could one mortal do this? But the accepted timeline doesn't hold under pressure. If Hermann completed this in one night, as the legend claims, he'd have written roughly 310 pages, each with 200-300 words of Latin in darkness by candlelight without error. That's 62,000 to 93,000 words. In 8 hours, the handwriting is consistent. The Latin is clean. The vellum preparation alone takes weeks. The math kills the story. Here's what the evidence actually suggests. Hermann did spend 30 years on this. The project was real. The financial pressure was real. But somewhere between the 13th century and the modern era, the story got compressed and then weaponized. Medieval people needed an explanation for genius and endurance. Supernatural intervention was the rational answer they had available. Then the Reformation hit Europe. Protestants were hunting for proof that the Catholic Church was corrupt, superstition-ridden, demonic. Catholics were defending the faith by any means. The Codex Gigas became a pawn. It was moved from monastery to monastery, hidden, rediscovered. Each time the legend grew darker. By 1666, when King Charles Roman XI of Sweden purchased it for the royal library, the Devil's Bible story was already 3 centuries old and calcified. Now look at that demonic illustration again. Medieval scholars have identified it as standard iconography, a visual representation of evil for theological commentary. It's not a signature from Satan. It's a page illustration. But the legend had already transformed it into proof of possession. Once a story gains that kind of momentum, facts become irrelevant. So what's the real story? A monk named Hermann faced a decision under scarcity. His monastery was broke. The abbot's solution was high risk. Create something so magnificent, so valuable that it would save them. Hermann accepted. He spent 30 years proving it was possible. He succeeded. The manuscript survives. It's housed in the National Library of Sweden in Stockholm, where you can see it today. The curse, the legend. That's what happens when humans encounter excellence they can't explain. We reach for the supernatural. We create myths around genius because the truth, that a man chose to spend 30 years perfecting a single thing, feels insufficient. We want demonic intervention because dedication alone seems impossible. But here's what matters. The Codex Gigas is real. Hermann's labor was real. The choice he made to trade 3 decades of his life for the survival of his community, that was the actual decision under pressure. No possession, no curse. Just a man counting the cost and deciding it was worth paying. That story is stranger and more human than any legend. And it's the one worth remembering. Subscribe, there's a new unsolved case, and the real story behind the legend every week. Subscribe, there's a new unsolved case, and the real story behind the legend every week.